And many times your anointing will have you, thank you, will have you passionate in the area of what it is you minister within. And basically all you have to do is look at your God-gifted talent. My God-gifted talent, there's some things, you got people that are great singers, you got people that are great seamstress, you got people that are that can automatically cook, and they come from a line of cooks, they come from a line of whatever their talent may be. My family on my dad's side is they have been in the automotive line. My granddaddy could put together any type of engine. My dad was the same way, and he just, automotive was his thing. And the generation, my mom's side was, they did construction. They brick masons and carpenters on the McKeithen side. The McGrady side was dealing with the area of automotive, putting together things with their hand and seeing how stuff worked. So I got two DNAs that love how things come together. Anything broken, they like to rebuild. And my anointing, I like dealing with brokenness. Whether a person is going through brokenness, my anointing is how, like the potter, to do whatever can try to put them back together. And so when it comes down to life and come down to things, my encouragement is it's okay to be broken. Just don't stay broken. And so I have made mention, and co-pastor would admit to this. Many times I've said, if I had really recognized some things later on, early on in life, I would have been more probably in the medical sector. And I said one of the things I would have loved to have been was in the OBGYN area, because when she was going through areas of, we had 3 miscarriages and a lot of different things she had to go through her body. It fascinated me through the medical side. I would look up stuff, recognize stuff, and talk to her as well as the doctors pertaining to things that was happening in her natural body. Well, due to that, I've always been fascinated. The male body don't have us. You know, we got, one of the greatest things we have to be careful about is our prostates, you know. But other than your testicles or so forth, it's not a whole lot with the male body. But the female body has so many working organs, and it's like with me with a vehicle. I understand if you're going to get an engine to run, you got to have combustion, you got to have fuel, you're going to have fire for the combustion. So you got a crank that's got to have an area of a piston that's connected to a push rod, that's connected to a wrist pin, that's connected to a cylinder, that's connected to a valve that's going to call out. So all this working part, I know how that engine, I know how one sound when it's got a knock to it because it's been starved with oil. I know how it is when it got a knock because it's just wore out with so many thousands of miles on it. So these things are in my nature. Transmission, I could learn, but I didn't want to. You know, but as far as the engine, tearing it apart, putting it back, understanding, you know, why did this part must go up? When that crank turn, why do number 1 have to turn the opposite of the other side of number 2 cylinder? Because you got a V8, all this force going on one side, you know, you're not going to have a balance. You know, so all of this stuff is mechanically minded. So when it comes down to me really ministering to women, my mind go into a different state. It's a state of fascination, because when it comes to the female body and they makeup and how they operate and function, we need to be aware, brothers, that there's certain times due to the operation that they may not be hitting on all cylinders. That's whenever, like a car, you know, whenever it come into the shop, first thing we say is, do it have a skip? Do it have a miss? What's causing the check engine light to come on? It's not the same thing every time. They cuss you out today. It may not be why they cussed you out last week the same way, you know. But what's causing this? So you got to find out what to do? Is it running low octane this week? Do they need a hug and some attention from you this week? They just going through the change. Once they get to a certain age and a certain time of life. And so there's things that we have to recognize in life with this area. But we're going to be talking about a story today. And we're going to be dealing with it from the Old Testament viewpoint. And we're going to really deal with this woman in the Bible with the issue of blood. And what we need to understand, even while going there, I want to do some just some general information. We got to, ladies, you have to be real careful because you got to remember that women are born with all their eggs in the beginning of their birth. Women are born with approximately 2 million eggs in their ovaries. But about 11,000 of them die every month prior to puberty. And so when you start taking all these new type shots to keep from getting pregnant and all of this medication, and you cannot shed these little layers, it's similar like these little breast strips. These little linings, they going to come off each month. And they designed to, God created you with them to come off, and they dissolve. And that's called your menstrual, your cycle, so forth, so on. Now, when you stop that, you're tampering with God's nature. Regardless if you want to think so, you may not be getting pregnant, but you're tampering. You're messing with nature. And those signs, do not mess with Mother Nature. Okay, so you're dealing with a lot of different stuff that happen. And then through the process, you start having many problems. Lots of women have to have DNC areas, dilation, curettage. I can't pronounce it quite right, but I always call it DNC because that's the easiest way, and I believe lots of the doctors don't pronounce it quite right. I heard it pronounced different ways. But it's a process to remove tissue from the uterus. And I remember whenever we was dealing with, sometimes you got longer cycles, your period, as we would call, they last longer. And after a period of time, it start affecting your life. And we're dealing with this from a biblical but medical viewpoint on today. And when your life start being disturbed, it disturbs everything around you. And so when you're dealing with these areas, they treat you, and they got to treat you because, for one, you become imbalanced. You're losing so much blood that you're not supposed. Your body got so much makeup for those 7 days that's a norm to be able to take and replenish itself. But when 7 turned to 14, that turned to 21, that turned to 28, and it continued to go, then you're off balance, and you don't feel like you used to feel. You don't want to go where you used to. For one, you can't do what you used to do. You had the beach plan, but you can't. You can't do all the things that you want to do. And most times you schedule stuff, ladies, around your what? Don't say it. And due to these things, your life is planned around your nature. And then you have things that happen that from abnormal things. You got the cryosurgery that they do, the freezing technique to try to help control to destroy abnormal tissues within the cervix. That lots of times you have an abnormal bleeding and you're hurting and you're cramping. Then they got your LEAP area of that's your electroscopic type surgery, remove abnormal cells from the cervix, and then you got your myomectomy. That's your surgery that removed the fibroids and women's. Y'all know about those areas. You got pain that seems like about to bust through you, and they grow to a point to where they get to a certain size, and the doctor have to be able to do. So all of these techniques I've studied, I've looked. When I was taking psychology, I was so amazed with it to the point I like, man, I'm in the wrong thing. I believe I could, and see, you like a race engine. When you're a mechanic, you want to make something better, make it do. And I look at, man, I understand now the study of different medicines and different things to help a person get better. Same way it is with racing. You want to be to make something faster, and go longer and so forth. So when you do things that cause these effects, then you need to recognize that sometimes we have to go direct back to the manufacturer And the one who really created it, which I don't see where my Bible is. Okay, here you go. We have to go back to here and see what was happening then. The same thing you're experiencing now was happening then. And the thing about it was they just didn't have what you have now to deal with it. And now we got stuff to deal with it that sometimes is worse than what it was they had because they didn't. So I'm saying that because where we're going, I don't want nobody to feel that we're talking pervertically. This is life. When you go to the doctor and you give your Blue Cross Blue Shield, your Cigna, or you deal with your military retirement insurance, whatever, you go to the doctor. It's amazing. You don't even know them. You go there and show all your goods, express all your business just to try to get better. But then your husband may ask a question. You don't know what you're talking about. I ain't sharing that with you. You ain't no doctor. And he the one being with you since Buck was a pup. You're a full-grown dog now. So it's amazing how we think and we pay them for a practice. It's just a practice. That's why they have malpractice insurance. Because it's a practice. It don't mean that I'm practicing on you. I'm bringing you in, and I'm going to do something that I think don't work. It's about like, Russ, if you're getting ready, somebody's house leaning one way, you say, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to dig out some of that old soft dirt, and I'm going to go ahead and put some concrete down here, and I think this will work. But if you hadn't did a soil sample, compression test, you hadn't did any of the stuff that you just practicing. So you do it, and 2 years later, the house fall over. Then they sue you because they said, well, did you do this? I didn't know I was supposed to do that. So when people go and they get on this medication and you start saying, if you've been taking so-and-so for this length of time, you discover that you've been getting boils and your hair been dropping out, your left eye had came to the side, you're cross-eyed now, and you no longer can walk, and then by all means, see me and we'll get the lawsuit. Man, it's too late by then. You your eye to the left, you can't hardly walk, you can't talk, you're in a slur, and now you're getting sued and get some money for what? You're going to look real good going to the beach with a left eye out and a, come on, what good is that money going to do for you then? And so when we start looking at things, we have to really get to the point, just as we've been talking about with this healthy and wellness and healthy living and all this here, because your life, you only have one of them. And so when you start taking even birth control pills, some people, I got to stop. I'm picking up so much weight. Well, you got to consider several things. Sometimes birth control pills do, but birth control pills also control a lot of that bleeding. That's where they start off a lot of times. Don't mean that you're all the way out here. You got people that's talking about, well, I'm scared to put them on birth control pills because they may seem they got the license to do sex. Well, some people been driving without license for a long time. Some drivers got almost with a DUI out here, But the bottom line is, you got to ask yourself, when a doctor prescribed that, because there's areas of in your medication that can control the area that you need to put you balanced. So when you become balanced, then it starts having you regular within your cycle. Okay, so now you may be on the birth control pill, but the birth control pill is causing you to have a little bit of weight gain. But then you have to ask yourself, am I eating the same? Studies have shown most people's appetite may increase. So what you do, you balance your appetite. Do you want to bleed for 21 days? Or do you want to cut back on some of your food along with the medication? Do you want to have this? So it's a lot of stuff. That's why I'm bringing forth to share the stuff that a woman go through that a lot of times they don't want to talk. You remember when there were girls, it was so embarrassing for a young girl to go to school and have her first cycle and not know it, because lots of parents didn't want to discuss it. Well, when you get it, just come see me. When you get it, just come talk to them then. And then they just send you to the bathroom. Well, count this day here, and about this time next month, this going to happen. I need you to take it with you. And, you know, back in the day, we used to have those red big, what they call hot water bottles, draped over the shower. They red, long tube with the white stem. I don't know why the stem was white, but anyway, they had all that. And then you ask, what's this? That's none of your business. That's for grown folks. Okay, grown folks' business. Okay, but they didn't realize that so much douching will also cause a problem and imbalance of the regulatory. You become irregular within the area. So all of these things, whenever you go through life and not aware of what's what and so forth, so on, is a problem. Now let's go to this woman. We're going to start reading and talking about her. We're going to start talking about some things and seeing some stuff out of Leviticus before we even get into the message, because that's why I say if I would to take and follow this, would have followed the area course, the reason I would have picked OBGYN or within the gynecology area is simply because there's more working factors. When it even come down to breast cancer and awareness and so forth and so on, people don't realize the glands and the different things that cause it. Sometimes people are afraid and scared, and it could just be scar tissue. Even within the area of a woman having scar tissue within her, men's not aware that they cannot enjoy what we enjoy together intimately. And they may have to have procedures done. And you looking at her like, well, you just don't, you just don't even want to do nothing. They're hurting, brothers. They scared for you to come home. Because they already know if you look at them and you start tapping them on the shoulder, that they like, if you ask for one more, if you only knew what I was going through. You know, so there's a lot of things you need to talk through and be able to help get it fixed. There's a fix to a lot of stuff, but we have to learn how to do it, together. Okay, so now, Leviticus chapter 15, verse 19 through 28. We're going to read this in. I don't know how far we're getting today, but I'm going to get you out on time today. But I'm not going to rush this because I want us to catch some stuff here. And for those women that are going through any type of medical situation within their natural bodies, we're going I believe that we're going to gather from today forth for the next 30 days. And I want y'all to start lifting up this type of prayer that God will take and bring you to the exposure, the information you need within your body. Because there's a lot of stuff that need to be done through surgery. There's a lot of stuff that need to be done through medication. There's a lot of stuff need to be done through diet. And then there's a lot of stuff you just, exercise. And just, it's like the old saying, you don't use it, you lose it. And so there's a lot of stuff that need to be done, but we don't like to talk about or pray about it as a church. Not that you're going to stand up here at the mic and say, well, I got this going on, Pastor. No, What we're going to do is claim this month to be for those that's going through, because they call it, why do you think they call it your private area? Because it's private information. It's your private area. And so we don't like talking like this in church, but this is a place of healing. This is a place of release. This is a place of being set free. This is a place that we bind the enemy. But how are we going to do it if we can't talk about it? And so this is what, we got men going through impotent. They're going around borrowing each other Viagra, about to bust their heart apart, all that stuff. They don't know if they need what's brothers, what side did they come in? Because I wouldn't know. I don't get them. but you know, all I know, you hear about them, the little blue pill, you got Cialis, you got this, you got that. But it's okay if that's what you need. I just recently went through this area with this prostate. I'm going to tell you the truth. Most hurtful thing, I woke up. Then I got on a medication that for a day that co-pastor reminded, she said, you know what, I just remember you're not supposed to take that particular. Man, I got up, the room was spinning. I couldn't hardly make it to the bathroom. I felt like I was dying. And, but I can't take stuff with codeine in it. But at the same time, the doctor he said, look, what we're going to do, because when I first recognized this stone, you hit the toilet. Bing! That's how bad, that's real stones. And he was telling me, so what you going to do? He said, then I need to grab it, get it, and put it in a bag and bring it to me. So you urinate in the toilet. You got to take your hand and grab it. So you don't want to go somewhere where everybody else is using the bathroom. But anyway, there's a medication that they would give you that will soften your prostate, that'll let you go to the restroom like a racehorse. And I didn't realize, because I'm a man, I'm used to handling my business. Since I got out of diapers, I'm able to hold my bladder. But this week, I'm a grown man at Food Line, picking up some Simply lemonade that they say that help flush. I'm sitting up there, and these two women got the nerve to be talking. Now, the more they talk, they start cackling. Now I'm seeing them as two roosters and hens, because I need to get out of this line. This medicine softens your prostate. Start working immediately. And it'll start opening your prostate so you can flush your urine to help move stones. And I'm sitting up there, and I'm starting to, now I want church dance, and I'm next in line. And all of a sudden, I come home, I'm telling the co-pastor, I'm so embarrassed. She said, what you? I said, you see this? I'm a grown man wetting myself in Food Line. Getting out, I'm walking out there like this right here. I left the stuff, because anytime they can give you a medication that cause stuff to start happening in your body, well, watch this here. It's the same way Viagra, Cialis, and all that. It's the same medication to a degree that open up the area of your vein that cause your cause your blood to open and flow, that cause your penis to be able to get erection simply for the fact that you have a restriction. Now watch this. So here it goes. You got a restriction that causes you not to have a blood flow, and we realize that high blood pressure has caused problems to get you on medication to bring you on low blood pressure, which takes away Willie. Willie, really? So when that don't operate and work, you got a problem in the home, and most men don't like talking to their wives about the problem in their home. I'm just not feeling good, or this, that, the other. Now we're just, baby, come on, I got a problem. We going to the doctor. We going to see what's going on with this. We've been together 30, 40 years, so we need to see what's happening with this, with us. If we don't start talking with one another when stuff happening, but now watch, let me show you the danger. So now Earl talking to Mark. Earl talking about, well, you know, every time me and Jackie together, we can't, so they husband and wife. So he, and so he talking, so you say, well, doctor gave me some of these, you know, I went to my VA appointment, and man, they really work. Because every time that me and old girl get together, now she happier than she ever been. All right, so now Earl take your medicine, but Earl blood pressure is running about 210. So they got him on something to bring him back level. But now you give him one of these blue pills, and not realizing if it's going to open him up to that point to get a blood flow, you're not realizing that he can also get an aneurysm. So he trying to get pleasure, but about to have a heart attack at the same time. And so the same thing that brought him in going to take him out. And so my point is, am I talking right, Keisha? You're in the medical profession. So my thing is this here. We got to stop trading medicine with everybody. Because what happens is he may need to be on 250 milligrams instead of 500. He may need to either get the smaller pill or cut it in half. But the doctor need to determine that. Because it's your name on the bottle, not his. So he's taking your medicine so she can smile like she's smiling right now. But what's going to happen is he start taking it too much, he going to mess around and die. It was a man next to our shop at the funeral home. And it was so funny because of the people that said, well, why? He kind of young. Had took 4 of those bad boys. Strong strength. Left out of here with a bang. So you need to know, and all I'm saying is in the real, we got to start talking and understanding and not putting people down because of health conditions. You got some people that's bipolar. You got some people schizophrenic. They got some people that's walking around paranoid. Somebody talking about me. Look at me. Okay, what's the difference of their medical condition versus your diabetes, versus your high blood pressure, hypertension? A sickness is a sickness. Sin is sin. Whether you got a mental sickness or whether you got a heart condition sickness, a kidney condition sickness, or whatever it is a sickness. Am I right? So what we're going to do, we're setting a ground stage floor here so that we won't be laughing and picking at each other. Because if you go to the doctor and he said, well, ma'am, I just realized that you got bipolar. You're not going to sit there and tell, are you going to want to come to church and tell somebody you got bipolar? But it's a condition. You'll feel more comfortable to tell somebody that you got high blood pressure. Well, the doctor said I got high blood pressure. But if you come, because first thing you say, you start saying bipolar, you start saying schizophrenia, people going to call you what? Okay. So you much rather than to say you got something that's, in that arena. It's just like someone having AIDS, but they laid down with a woman and got it. And here goes somebody a male heterosexual versus homosexual. And so what you going to say? You got two people with AIDS. Oh, I got AIDS the right way. AIDS is AIDS. You see what I'm saying? So what I'm setting the ground floor for we ever get here is we have to look at a sickness as a sickness, a disease as a disease. And we have to look at, how many of you, if somebody says, child, I got a bad headache, you reach in your purse and give them some of your medicine. I mean, it's just stuff that, we do. I don't like medicine. I started weaning myself off. Doctor gave me this medicine. I realized I only took, I could smell, last week I could smell eggs, bacon, anything, want to throw up. I was gagging, barfing. Co-pastor got somebody took that medicine one day. I'm glad she got it because I needed it. But at that same time, my doctor who prescribed it, after that I knew I needed to come off of it. They started giving me all kind of pain medicine, all that. Took about 2 days to come off of it. I just say, because the side effects, there's so many side effects it had, I deal with the pain. But some people like to be sick. You got some people go around, they just want the attention because they hadn't got it. And so how you doing? But after about 4 days, people tired of you. Let me help you with something. I don't care if it's your spouse. I don't care if it's your friend. After about 4 to 5 days, and they checking on you, they ready for you to get better. They want to keep on dealing with that. So I applaud all of the carekeepers and caregivers that have people in their life that they able to deal. And let me tell you, those of you that are getting care and attention, you got to be careful because you don't realize sometimes you're at the aid of someone else. You're at the need of someone else's aid to you. And sometimes we're not aware they mean and they mad because they hurting. And they lifestyle have changed. But you got to be real careful when you like that too, because the person life have changed simply because they dealing with you. And you can't put them through hell because of your hell. Because hell and hell is hellacious. So let's deal with this area with this woman. Aaron, if you will, let's start Leviticus 15, verse 19.
New Living Translation. Whenever a woman has...
And I picked this area because we try to hide stuff from saying period or cycle. Or, the Bible says when a woman, it talks about our good, the best of us, is no more than a woman menstrual cloth. Which you mean the pad that she used, that her body lining that's designed from God. The Bible said that whenever David come off his rooftop, he saw Bathsheba bathing from her impurities. She had just come off her cycle. She was going through her time of bathing from her impurities, and he saw her and called her to the room. There was purification time. And you got a lot of people today that the women will tell the husband, after time, he said, girl, that thing's still on? She said, well, I got about 2 more days. I'm about off now. I'm down to mud. I'm talking right stuff, ain't I? Am I in the wrong place? And so that let us know, because all we know is like, well, when? How much longer? Why can't you speed it up? You know, and so she already telling and forewarning us where it's at, how long we got to go. So in the mind process, there's a purification time that a woman should know like clockwork, but whenever that clockwork is steady going, now it's no longer turning to mud. It's no longer clearing up. And now a day turned to another week, that turned to another month, that turned to a year, till we get to this woman with 12 years. I'm bringing it to us this way because lots of times we miss this woman in the Bible that we talk about, and we just call her the woman with an issue of blood. But what if that was you? I want, for the time that I deal with this message, and I rebuke and I bind right now in Jesus' name any of this coming upon any of our sisters. But for a moment, I want you to just take and place yourself in her condition. Because when we place ourselves in somebody else's condition, it changes our perspective of what it is that they've been dealing with. So I'm bringing it to us this way, scientifically as well as psychologically, in order for us to understand what somebody is. Anybody ever lost a baby before? Had a miscarriage or so forth. We went through that after 3 times. It got to a point when she lost them, she started talking about the pain she was having. Till when she got pregnant again, she started telling me about the pain. I got pure scared and nervous. She lost that baby too. So when she came to the next one, and she started talking about the pain, Chris, I was scared and nervous. Because guess what? I didn't know what to do. Because every time she got to a certain point and talked about that, something happened. How many times we don't have no one to go to about our pain, our fear, our traumas, the things that cause you to wonder, am I going to make it this time? Those women that trying to have babies and want to have a child, and they may not have had that child, and yet they see somebody else with children putting them up for adoption, someone else not being good to their child, and they begging, and they feel like the area of who it was, Hannah, that's going before God, petition, give me a child, lest I die. Can you imagine how they may feel? Sometimes I had a young lady talk to me, and I had to minister to her for a while. She said, it made me feel less than a woman. And I had to minister through that whole process to let her see she was still a woman. And let her understand that how the Bible talks about how God has shut up Sarah's womb, how God has shut up this one woman, then how God, and what if God choose not to? That still don't make you a woman. It still don't make you a man. It still don't make you anything. If God chooses not to do whatever, you are who you are. If you're a woman, you're a woman. If you're a man, you're a man. You're a child of God, you're a child of God. But it's all in God's hand. Blessed be the name of the Lord. We have to come to a point to start identifying that God don't always give all of us the same thing. We don't have the same DNA. We don't have the same, we don't stay in the same house. We don't have the same car. We may have, even your car may look alike, but it got a different VIN number. And so we got to come to a point to understand this message. And I'm painting the picture, and I'm wanting us to see that through this type message here, it should help us understand the trauma of this lady. So it said, it talks about, first of all, her condition. And so a person condition, then we're going to go to the woman. Go ahead, Karen.
Whenever a woman has her menstrual period, she will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days.
For 7 days. 7 days. Now most women, in reality, you got some women have short periods. There's 3 to 4 days. But then on a norm, you can look for a good week. 7 days. Okay, continue.
Anyone who touches her during that time will be unclean until evening.
Anyone touched her during that time will be unclean until evening.
Anything on which the woman lies or sits during the time of her period will be unclean.
Here's what I want to do. Here's what I'm going to do. Karen, I'm going to have you to just read from over here. And I'm going to walk through this. I'm going to walk through it twice. I'm going to walk through it from the perspective of Leviticus. Then I'm going to walk through it through the perspective of this story. So as we have said, I'm going to have you to come, and I asked Rochelle if she would come. Yes, she would sit here, and Rochelle would sit here. And Wiggins is going to play the husband to Karen. So I'm going to ask you to stand beside her, and Raina, you just come stand beside your wife. Now, we're going to two stories. We got both stories going to be the same. Now, so I want you to just bear with me through two stories. One, no matter how attractive you may be, no matter if the sun wake up and say, you are so beautiful, or however you feel about yourself, the bottom line is we all go through stuff. Go through stuff. But in that day, the scriptures reads as this. She just said, when a woman have a menstrual period, she will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days. Anyone who touch her during that time will be unclean to the evening. So husband, touch your wives for a moment. All right, now take your hands off of her. That means if you touched her, you was unclean until the evening. That means you couldn't even really, because see, that means if you're unclean, you touch me, I'm unclean. That's why the Bible speaks about when David was getting ready to go to, first thing that Saul said when David was not showing up to the ceremony. He said, had he been with a woman of uncleanness? Because he knew if David had been with a woman, if David have slept with a woman who have not come off her ceremonial time of cycle, that he would be unclean. And if he touched any of the soldiers, they would be unclean. And if there was an area of battle, they couldn't really go to war. So a man cannot be in the midst of other men as well if he's touching his wife and she's unclean. And people can say what they want, to each their own, but at the same, people say, "Oh, that's so nasty. Man sleep with a woman and she had a cycle on and all that type of stuff." Okay, the Bible gonna talk about that too. But what you don't realize is also the transmittal of uncleanness that you put towards one to another. A lot of things that we're gonna just basically just touch. I'm not gonna go into detail, but if you want detail, see me afterwards on another day, and I'll give you some good information that'll help you understand that. The old folks used to say it like this. Old folks, you just nasty. But there's bacteria that was spread that causes areas of sicknesses and diseases that people not aware of just because they want their pleasure. That's why when a man is not circumcised, a woman not aware of all the bacteria, I don't care how good he may take and use today's area body wash, there's bacteria you can't get rid of that you spreading unto the female. So anyway, it goes here and it says that they unclean. And it said, and anyone who touched her during that time would be unclean until evening. Anyone, which means especially your husband, your children, anyone. Continue.
Anything on which the woman lies or sits during the time of her period will be unclean.
So guess what? She ain't going to sit in this chair all day. Am I right or wrong? No. She's going to eventually, and y'all can stay there for right now, lay down. Which means her bed going to be unclean for how long? How long? Read that verse again, Karen.
Will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days.
So she's in the bed. And if I go, you know how y'all ladies are today? I'm going to just show you how you couldn't have stood back then. Yeah, I'm cramping, hold me. Can you get something? Get a heat pad or something. Just hold me for a few minutes. And we, okay, you lay down, you hug them and try to comfort them. 7 days, you can't go to work. You can forget about going to the post office. Count that check empty. Oh, Goodyear, just call Mr. Goodyear and say, I can't go because I just been hugged up with my wife for 7. I'm unclean for 7 days. And I go out here, that means that rancher, ain't you at Goodyear now? You be out when Holiday was out there, Sister Holiday, anybody that he touched. So you're going to be quite mad with this brother, ain't you? Because now you got to stay home because you got, can I tell you what it's like? The flu. He cough on you, you get it. He cough on them, they get it. And the flu lasts about the same length of time. Am I right or wrong? So you're unclean. It was a lot that a woman went through in that day. A whole heap. Look at somebody say a whole heap. And so during that process, he couldn't do. So guess what he would do? He would stay away from her. And it was like she had the plague. Because it was considered a plague. You know why? It was a curse, y'all. Come on, let's go to the Bible in Genesis. That was the curse that God gave the woman. Okay, so I just want to deal with this type stuff today. Continue with it.
If any of you touch her bed, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening.
So if you touch the bed, you wash your clothes, bathe yourself in water, and you'll be remaining unclean till evening. So, sir, I won't be making it today. I sat on my wife's bed. you know, so now she not gonna. You got to wash the clothes, because guess what? If she handles your clothes, it's still unclean. And you know some brothers gonna have a fit, because some of y'all don't know how to cut on a washing machine. Okay, verse 22.
If you touch any object she has sat on, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening.
So you can't sit behind her. So if she get up out the chair, you can't say, let me have me sit down. No, you can't touch the bed. You can't lay in the bed. You can't any of that stuff. Next verse.
This includes her bed or any other objects she has sat on. You will be unclean until evening if you touch it.
So can you imagine, brothers? Let's go back to that day. You having to take and miss opportunity, miss work, all of these type things you're going to miss out on because you touch your wife. And your wife is only going through a process that God put in her. There's some stuff that we're having to deal with that God put on course. And I want to ask us, how are we going to deal with what God set up? The stuff that we don't like that's going on in our life now, and I realize this Old Testament, and I'm going to eventually bring it to the New. But the stuff that God put in our life that we don't want to deal with. Men, how many of you like to wake up and go to work with sweat on your face? That was our curse. There's stuff we having to deal with every day that God put in place, but we got to still deal with it. Continue.
If a man has sexual intercourse with her and her blood touches him.
So the New King James said her flower. Call it her flower. Ain't nothing, no flower about it. Her blood touches her.
Her menstrual impurity will be transmitted to him.
So now, the Bible says that if a man that's why I brought forth earlier, and lay with his wife while her cycle is on, then it's transferred to who? Him. Now, what's happening is you being cleansed from your impureness. So the impurities that's in you is coming out of you. He laying with you, and now he's receiving from you. So God considering him now unclean as well. And a lot of people, that's why I say I'm not getting into all that. That's something totally different. Not aware of scripturally a lot of things that God have already put in place. But then I realized we go to the New Testament. Thank God for New Testament. And people, automatically use that verse, marriage honorable and all, and what? The bed undefiled. And we justified through that. But there's a lot of stuff that still don't change just because the bed undefiled. Okay, for instance, the bed is undefiled, but you got to have a bowel movement. Old Testament says one thing, New Testament says something totally different. But I guarantee you're going to deal with it the same way. So what I'm saying is we pick and choose what we think God wants. And what we have to realize is that when we start dealing with the scripture, we got to ask ourselves, why is all this stuff happening in the land? Where's all this pollution coming from? Where's all of this stuff of sicknesses and diseases and this and that and that and this? And so I'm just dealing with some things just to stimulate our mind, because when we start dealing with this woman, I want y'all to really put yourself there, and it's going to put you into a whole different story. Every time you hear about this woman with issue of blood, I guarantee you'll see it differently, whether you're male or female. Continue.
He will remain unclean for 7 days.
7 days. Now watch. Let me show you how important this is. One thing for me to have to clean my clothes because I laid on your bed. But he told me, and watch, take a bath. But now he told me, I'm going to remain unclean 7 days if I lay with you with your cycle on. So that's how serious he takes it for the condition of being unclean. And so the scripture continue.
And any bed on which he lies will be unclean.
So now he comes over your house, Mark, sit on your bed, and guess what's happening? Your bed going to be unclean for 7 days. And you didn't even have nothing to do with it. What happens when somebody in your family get in trouble and they bring their problem to your house? They get a DUI. You won't drinking, but you got to help pay the lawyer. They shot somebody and killed them by mistake. Now, what happened with them is coming to your house. You got to either deal with your bank account. You got to either deal with trying to get them a law. They call you and say, hey, I just got a DUI and I need some help to get out of jail. You got to find a bail bondsman. You got to find a lawyer. You got to come up with some money. Did you have the DUI? No. So what happened in life when what somebody else do outside the will of God touches your life? And this is what I want to bring us to, because every part supplies the whole, whether you do a good part or a bad part. So what we're coming to the conclusion of is how to watch those that we just let in our life any kind of way. Because if you're careless and reckless, you can bring your carelessness and recklessness into my life. And now I got to deal with how I handle you. I may love my child, but if my child is careless and reckless, you know, I got to watch how I deal with them, because it can cause you to lose the farm. You put up your house and you put up your stuff for them, and they don't show up for court. They're going to take your stuff. But why would you do it anyway when they didn't show up for court the first time? My baby. No, that's Igor. That's Freddie, Little Kruger. That's Jason. No matter how much you want, if they didn't show up the first time, and you're going to put your house up, boy, now I need you to show up. Don't you do that again. I just lost thousands to that bail bondsman. Mama, if you just let me out. But they're saying, if you just let me out, I'm going to run good enough this time. So in this story, we got people's lives being touched off what somebody else is doing. Okay, continue.
If a woman has a flow of blood for many days that is unrelated to her menstrual period, or if the blood continues beyond the normal period, she is ceremonially unclean.
Okay, this is where you start getting into your DNCs. This is where you start getting into your cryosurgeries and your LEAP and all this stuff. Back then, they were having fibroids. Back then, they was having abnormality. They were having cervical cancer and all these type things back then. Look at somebody saying nothing changed. They just so these problems that we see today. The Bible said there's nothing new under what? But the condition we have now is a whole lot better, because guess what? Your husband can take and caress you when the doctor gives you news that may not be favorable. He can take and hold you in the bed, and he can still go to work the next day while you stay home. He's not ceremonial unclean and all of these things due to the New Testament. So I know that there's a lot of stuff that's going on, but if you had to live, I don't believe we could have handled that day. We're too soft. You know, you got people complaining right now, and it's just turned warm. You about to beat the face off of the air conditioner thermostat, talking about how it's hot. But just 2 weeks ago, you were battling You were just battling with the area of the thermostat talking about it was cold. You know, you about to have a fit because just 2 days into it. But then when it was winter, you said, I can't wait till it get to be spring. And now it's spring, and you screaming. They didn't have air conditioning back then, y'all. They didn't have they didn't have fans because they didn't have electricity. And we having a fit. They didn't have the medication that put up you and freeze fibroids. They didn't have the technology and stuff like you'd be somewhere eating some leeks and some onions, rubbing garlic all on your belly. That'll keep that man away. But boy, some of these men out there, okay, baby. So the thing that I'm trying to get us to see, I don't know if we could have made it back then. Let me tell you, they didn't have feminine napkins. Kotex, if some would say. You know, you used to open the bottom of the cabinet for years as a little boy. I didn't know what that was. Because not always, I had my mom, but I had 4 sisters. And so I'm looking and I wonder why me and Charles didn't ever get to have any of these. Nobody told us. They didn't tell us about it. I'm like, why is it when we reach? Nah, that's not for y'all. You know, just tell us these are for women. Damon, you a boy. You know, you need to tell us just like, tell us something. We don't. So we don't go through this stuff of talking. So what happens is this. Ladies, they use wool. I want y'all to go back with me. They took real wool, folded it, and used the itchy wool. And the reason they used it, because it absorbed. It had real fiber. Can you imagine walking around all day with wool? Now, you know, now you got all this stuff. Have you been to the pool lately? All you got to do is use this here. You know, all kind of, we got it made compared that it won't. When it came down to Rachel and Leah, I believe it was. But anyway, and they were trying to find the golden images. The reason that they could not find it on her because she said, my menstrual is on. She could not be touched. But she was the one who had stolen the stuff. She was the thief, but at the same time, they couldn't touch her. Because of the simple fact, they would have been unclean. So I'm trying to get us to understand and see. And let me tell you what, the length of that day had to be, what was it? Within 6 inches and 4 inches high. So you were like this and this thick. And the reason for it was, and they were draped, like you got that drape on right there, that they had certain drapes to let them know she was unclean. Ladies, this day and time, you got them riding motorcycles, bike week, everything else. It don't make no difference. They're doing what? We couldn't have made it. So continue reading.
As during her menstrual period, the woman will be unclean as long as the discharge continues.
As long as it continues. Now bear in mind, not 7 days. This woman we're going to talk about, and we're getting ready to stop in just a minute because we ain't going to be able to get no further. 12 years. Yeah, I'm setting this thing up. I'm just wanting us to understand. 12 years, not 7 days. I'm not talking about 7 weeks or 7 months. I'm talking 12 years. So when we read this story, we take it so lightly. There was a woman who had an issue of blood for 12 years. Matter of fact, when you start reading the scripture on it, it says, a woman in the crowd has suffered 12 years with constant bleeding. I put it in New Living because it's more vivid. But when you read it in King James says, certain woman which had an issue of blood 12 years has suffered many things, many physicians. It don't even sound like it was nothing to it. But have you ever, y'all, those 4 days, 3 to 4 days that I went through this sickness, had me about ready to feel like throwing, well, you want to throw in a towel. But can you imagine 12? I want y'all to, especially ladies, 12 years? Your husband can't touch you. Your children can't touch you. You can forget a job. How much wool can you put on for 12 years? I mean, every time the boll weevils see you, they running. Anything that had to deal with you, your neighbors. She ain't been out the house in 12 years. I see the husband and the children all the time. I know, what? I ain't seen Shella in all that time. What's her name? Is it Karen? They moved over here. I know she had just got a new Benz and all that, but I ain't seen her since she Benz here. You know, 12 years is what I want you to put in your mind. Continue.
Any bed she lies on and any object she sits on during that time will be unclean, just as during her normal menstrual period.
So in other words, how is it that my normal have become abnormal, but I'm still treated as normal? The stuff that I'm supposed to be receiving after 7 days is considered what I'm supposed to have, but there's an abnormality in my life that do not give me the answer to the turmoil that's going on. But yet, in other words, 7 days have went by, I should be normal. But 7 days have turned to 12 years, and they still expect me to be normal. How can I? I should have had my education by now. I should have been out of debt by now. I should have had children by now. I should have been married by now. This is the norm. I graduated on time, and I went to 4 years of college, and I went to grad school, but nothing is working normal. How is it that what's supposed to be normal is abnormal? And everybody else is going on with life as usual, but they're not recognizing your pain. They're not recognizing your hurt. The husband that got so now, we don't even know in this story as we get to where he's at no more. Because brothers, how long can you put up with? Oh, you got her at the time, it was 36, 24, 36. But what happened when 36 turned to 52? What is that 36, 24, 36? Put it this way. What happens whenever your size 12 turns into a size 38 to a 52? I'm just using sizes. I don't know. I don't know what size that is. We're not talking, but what is a typical size that most men look at? A 10 and 12. 10 and 12. Okay, what is what they call big girl size? Okay, what if your 22, 24 and turned to a 34, 36? When I met you, you were 20, you were 12. You was a 12. Who in here is a size 12? What's a 12? You're 12? Okay, huh? Okay, you're 12? Okay, come here, 12. Okay, so you're 12. Okay, now, if by chance the movie Precious, you go from that to Precious. Anybody remember Precious? Yeah, precious Lord, take my hand, give her to another man. Y'all, we just have a church. Jones. Nah, you just got mad. I'm leaving. I better leave Holiday alone. He's too honest. It's right here today on Sunday, so I'm going to leave you alone. Oh. Earl. Okay. Are you going to stick from here You remember Precious? You ever watch the movie Precious? If you went from here to Precious, are you going to want to stick? No. Earl said, Precious, no. Okay, so I'm not, all I'm just saying is this. How long do most people put up with what they having to put up with? Yeah, that's how the old saints is. How long? But then watch this. Here's what I want us to feel, because I'm going to put a period on stop. They ain't going to be. What about Precious? Precious didn't realize that she was going to turn one day to where she's at now. She was the same one, Earl, that held your hand, that you ran behind. That come here, let me talk to you, my son. She's the same girl that when you saw the twinkle in her eye, you try to run and rub her thigh. She's the same girl that every time you looked and she smiles, you just thought the whole world lit up with radiance. She's the same person that you said, I got to have her. You like Kid Sweat, all I know is that I want her. But something happened along the way. Time, sickness. Things started happening to where now she's no longer feeling attractive. She's no longer feeling beautiful. She done went to the point of that 12 to, now she done went to that area of 22, from a 22 to a 32. But when you held her hand, you said, yeah, you said for what is it now? For sickness and in hell. For better or worse. Now you had the better, but now you got the worse. You had the health, but now you got the sickness. And now you said, until death do you part, and she's still living. I know you want to kill her, but you can't. What do you do when you're not even considering the pain she's dealing with? Don't you know she have went from this to that? Don't you know she can't help how she's feeling and what she's dealing with and going through? But yet, through the scripture, even through the words that I just read, it's looked like that she should be doing all the things that happened when you first said I do. But what happened when that don't work? How do I handle life from that point? Do I become the sacrificial lamb and sacrifice my life because she's not where we was at the altar? But you just said, to death do you part, sickness and hell. You just said through broke or richness. What do I do at that point? We're going to talk about it next week. We're going to put a period there. We're going to pick up next week, start from there. Because prayer answers things. But what happened when you done prayed your best prayer? You just keep on praying. What happened, after you done prayed your best prayer, and then the scripture said, they that wait upon the Lord. The reason that you got this, here's my title. What do I have to lose? I'm going for it. What do I have to lose? I'm going for it. And we're going to start dealing with this woman. But I got to lay the foundation, because when we deal with this particular woman, this certain woman the Bible calls her, we're going to start seeing her in a different light. She'd have been kicked to the side, to the curb, because we ain't going to hear nothing else about her family, about her children. All of this stuff that talks about in Leviticus, what do you do when it seems like everything you have been holding on to seems to be leaving you? Look at somebody and say, you're going to make it. Look at somebody and say, encourage yourself. Let me tell you this, for anybody that's going through an area of low self-esteem, I need you to get over it. I don't care if you started out a size 10, 11, and you may be a 57. There ain't no difference. Get over it. You can do something about that. Love yourself. As long as you got breath in your body, as long as you got health and strength, you can get healthier and you can get more strength. by doing things that do that. But don't put your life on hold. Don't go climbing in a hole. Don't get no more depressed than what you are. Come up out of it and look in the mirror and tell yourself, I shall bounce back. Because a lot of times we're going through stuff and putting ourselves in situations and conditions that we don't have to be in because we're living off someone else. Exactly. So tell somebody, this is my season. This is my time for change. That's right. That's right. So we're going to stop right there. Pastor Quarterman, where you at? Is you here? Okay, there you go. Pastor Quarterman getting ready to come forth to you all real briefly. And so one of the things, but I want us to get this area. I'm not rushing this like fine wine. And what's going to happen when we get through with this message, people that's going through, whether in your marriage and that if the brother got a problem or if the sister got a problem, we're going to work through those problems. We're going to work through them because there's things that's happening too much in marriage that can cause affairs simply for the fact that people are not communicating. Some people don't have a health issue. They just got a forgiveness issue. We're going to deal with forgiveness. We're going to deal with communication. Then some people don't have nothing but a sex life. That's it. They ain't got no other life outside of sex. When those 3 minutes is up, they don't have nothing else the rest of the day. So we're gonna deal with all of that. We're gonna deal with all of that, and this gonna be a good year. Look at somebody and say, we're doing great things in 2019. That's right. We're getting ready to be healthy, wealthy, happy, glad. We're gonna work at people saying, I can't wait to go home, instead of sitting in the car talking about, my gosh, why did I show up to this house? If anybody ever been to a point you pulled in the driveway and your foot is on the brake and the car's still in drive and you saying, how much more can I keep coming here? Then we're going to fix all of that. We're going to deal with some stories and some words that's getting ready to put things back where God intended for it to be. So this is getting ready to be a great time. And then, brothers, sisters, we're going to have things that we're going to start doing some things called date night, setting some things in order, some things in course. Kids going to be got the way and things going to be set up. And the men's going to have a time where they be, turn off the lights, turn them off. Then the lady's going to have the day the way she do certain things. And we're getting ready